Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Sanderlanche podcast. I am Data, and with me today is
Dak,
Joe,
and Jamie.
And this week we are reading chapters, or we already read them. So hope you guys have also at this point, or there's gonna be a lot of spoilers
this
here.
Many episodes to get to that.
I've probably done it before. Anyway, we read chapters 32, 33, 34, and 35, wherein Sarene has a plan, and it sort of goes to plan, and bad things happen for the king. Hrathen he has a very introspective section where he kind of comes to some conclusions about his faith, I think. Raoden, we get a conclusion with Raoden and Sheor's men. We're getting kind of several little climaxes here. And then Sarene and her dad have a talk, and the Sarene's team in K comes up with a new plan that's also a little bit out there. So anyway, hang on to something, everyone. The Sanderlanche is about to begin.
Feed the fire, set me free in this city of dreams. Push my mind into overload. Hack the wire, smash the gene in this city of dreams. We'll be immortal in the code. Mind into overload.
Okay, so yeah, we there were some interesting actual events happening last time, and I don't know if you guys expected to slow down, but I don't feel like it did much. What did you guys think of these 4 chapters this time?
Abrupt. Very abrupt. It's like all of a sudden, the Iodon story's done. Out of almost, I don't want to say out of nowhere, but it's like when I first read it, I'm just like, wait, really? Okay, we'll just do that now. I just feel like, okay, so we're building up to Iodon, and he's practicing human sacrifice, which we didn't know was a thing for the Just Scary Mysteries, and he's hanged himself. Oh, okay.
They did mention that there was ritual sacrifice and fertility rites that were added to the Jesker Mysteries to like spice them up and make them more interesting. Because we talked about.
I must have missed that. I think I remember the fertility rituals. I must have just missed the human sacrifice bit. Okay.
They didn't say human. They said like ritual sacrifice. So you could have taken that to be other kinds of sacrifice.
All right, let's find a fatted calf or something. But it was cool, and like was definitely a fascinating little chapter, especially when I realized Dilaf was there, and I completely misinterpreted and thought he was in on the sacrifice. That
would have been hardcore.
Yeah. But like that was all pretty cool. And as far as abrupt stuff goes, I do feel like, for our last episode, I'm just like, yeah, Hrathen's been introspective, like for most of his chapters. Now he's in the thick of things. And then he had one chapter of introspection, and now he's cured again. So like, okay.
Yep.
Right. But I guess he's going to be the talk of the town or something. So, but like, it was fun. Like, definitely, like, it definitely felt like the whole, all right, things have been, sort of on the slow burn for a bit. Here's like a ritual sacrifice and a death of the king just to spice things up. And let's just see, all right, now we're getting into the bonkers shit.
Yeah, we're this whole time we've been like, man, how's the plan to take out Iodon going to go? And then it's like, oh, okay, well, I guess that's taken care of.
Brandon's like, let's kick things up a notch. Bam!
Pretty much.
Yeah, these chapters were good. Did I predict that Iodon was doing something with the missing people? I can't remember if that's something I said.
You thought that like he was like sleeping with the maids and then turning them into Elantrians to like get rid of them?
Oh, okay. Well, close, I guess. He could have been using them in fertility rituals as well, I suppose.
Oh yeah, they do the fertility thing and then they do the ritual sacrifice. Sure, yeah.
Sure.
First one, then t'other.
So yeah, I mean, I feel like maybe I get partial credit on that. I feel like, you maybe give me like half a point if we're doing a point system, which I don't think we are.
No, yeah.
But no, that was unexpected. I don't think I could have predicted quite exactly what happened there. Even, I mean, they kind of just talked about the Just Scary Mysteries in passing, and so I figured we would find out a little bit more about them, but I didn't think it would be like, oh yeah, the king practices those, and now he's dead. So that was surprising. I feel like Dilaf following them to the sewer. I was kind of like, really? You're just gonna let that guy follow you? Oh, because you didn't have enough time to tell him no? Just be like, dude, get out of here. Why are you following us? Like, that's all you gotta do.
He lives down there.
Yeah, Dilaf's like, I live here. This is my house.
They're like, just shoo, little guy, get out of
Yeah,
here.
get out of here. So that was different. And yeah, we ended like 2 chapters with the same cliffhanger now that Hrathen's saying basically that Hrathen's cured. But I think our 2 Australians have come up with good theories as to what's actually going on here. So that's probably what's happening, I would guess. But I'm excited to see the next turn. There's now apparently going to be a marriage as well between a young lady and an old guy. So, save the kingdom or whatever. So let's see what happens, I guess.
Save the kingdom, save the world. Sure, yeah.
Yeah, save the cheerleader, save the world,
Yeah, I enjoyed these chapters. I was thinking Serene's chapter was going on. I was like, oh man, more balls. And just talking to all these people, and she's a bit mopey, and I was like, I know she's got a plan. Let's just get to the plan. And then she was following someone, and I was like, oh, okay, this is, what? A ritual sacrifice? Oh my God. I had to reread that section a couple of times because, I misread it and thought Dilaf was there the first time I read it. I was like, what is Dilaf doing with the king? I'm so confused. It just all happens really, really quickly, which part of me likes. But then I feel like we sort of miss out on the suspenseful build-up a little bit. It's like something's going to happen. Something's going to happen. Boom, there it is. And then boom, he's dead because he hanged himself. Like, didn't you hear? He hanged himself. No. What? He's dead? You can't just float ritual sacrifice there and then kill him and be done with it. Oh my God. So I don't know if we know everything we need to know about that King Iron's behavior or not. We've still got the passageways and stuff, so we can figure out what he's doing. But I feel like Sarene is still gonna need to do something about that. And I was kind of disappointed that Hrathen already is cured. I thought he'd be there for a little while. I thought he'd have some interaction with the Elantrians or something. I'm hoping that the next chapter that we read, we get a little bit more info on that. Like, really, dude, you lasted 3 days, then you ate something, and now all of a sudden you're better? Right. Okay. So, good chapters. I'm enjoying the story. Some of it's just really abrupt for me and could have had more story to get us to these points. It feels a lot like, oh, yeah, didn't you know? It's like happening off page. Didn't you know this happened? Well, no, I didn't, because we're all reading the same story.
Yeah. It's like
a whole bunch of information.
It's like an ancient Greek tragedy. They never really kill anybody on stage. It's always like off stage, and they're like, yep, they executed so and so. It's like, oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Exit pursued by a bear.
Sorry?
Was the Shakespeare thing? Exit pursued by a bear. Oh, okay.
It's one of the downsides to our very strict, like, 3-person points of view, because then when there's something going on that none of them can reasonably be there for, we don't get to see it. It's like, it wouldn't make sense. I mean, obviously, Hrathen and Raoden are both in Elantris, so they can't see the king kill himself. And it wouldn't really make sense for Sarene to be going to see him in jail after what she just saw, so she can't really be there either. So it's like, oh, well, we can't see this happen, I guess.
I mean,
I guess we could be there for her to find out, though, because then it's like, hang on a minute, Eventio knows. Like, how? Obviously, it's gotten out somehow.
He's got spies.
No, he's got spies, but this isn't how Sarene was finding out. She knew too.
Yeah, she already knew. That's true. That's true. We didn't even get to see her find out. Oh,
That
that iodine.
if she discovered the body.
Oh.
She's gone down to the dungeons just to question him about it all and to, like, find out what the hell's really going on, and just finds him hanging there. It's like, that would have been dark, but
I do like that. Iodine is a guy that we never liked. Nobody ever had any positive feelings about him. And now he's dead and never had anything redeeming happen regarding him. Only went downhill the entire book. So it's like, okay, well, I don't feel bad that he's gone. Moving on.
I just want more answers about it.
Yeah. I also like how Andel was just like, oh yeah, you want to hang yourself? Here's a rope, dude. No problem. That's a more honorable way to go. No worries.
I got you, bro.
Just gonna leave this here. You do what you want. I'm gonna stare at the wall for 5 minutes.
Yeah, I'll take the struggling and the choking sound gurgling off to know that you're gone, and I don't have to worry about it anymore.
Whoops, I dropped this rope as I was walking out the door. It'll be fine. I'll come back for it tomorrow. Anyways, I guess let's get into these chapters. So At the beginning of our first Sarene chapter, she has arranged for Duke Royal to throw a party, an eclipse viewing party, and she will be going as his date. And she's very specific. She's not wearing a black dress. It's a dark blue dress. So just so that everyone knows.
Yeah, you colorblind fools. It's blue.
And she's
God, not that whole. Is the dress white and gold or is it black and blue thing?
Yeah,
oh
exactly.
my gosh, no. She's been feeling a little down since the whole thing went down at Elantris, and nobody. I think probably a lot of it is her whole like she was kind of into Spirit, and now she's never going to see him again or whatever, and he betrayed her. But nobody else knows like that part of it, so they all think she's just like pouting because her plan didn't work out or whatever. And there's a couple of fun scenes in the party where they were like, as they're walking around, they run into like happy couples, and she's like, "Oh fuck these people so hard. I don't want to see happy couples right now." And Roy has to be like, "Dude, get over yourself. You're in charge. We didn't ask you to come and be in charge. You took over this group, and you can't like spend 3 days pouting in your room when we need your leadership at this point. Like, you insisted on being in charge, and you took over, and so you need to actually do your freaking job." And she's only been here a few weeks, so it's very impressive how quickly everyone's just completely depending on her. Royal says Hrathen and Eondel all but worship you, and Lukel and Keen stand by your side like unmoving stones. Even Ahan describes you as the most delightful young woman he's ever met. And she's like, well, I mean, what's left at this point? Like, the Gjorn, he's neutralized. He's in Elantris now, so nobody cares about him anymore. And we've taken care of Iadon, I guess, so everything's good, right? And Royal's like, okay, look, you're not giving Iadon enough credit. Like, he's more clever than we usually think. He did manage to become king and take everything over 10 years ago. Let's not forget.
Also, knowing what we know now, is he more clever than what we all think?
I feel like no. But
No, I'd be on the no side as well.
I remember reading that chapter and think, oh, they're building it up to an Iadon comeback, and he's going to be like a much more present threat for the rest of the book. Nope.
They just needed to show enough of his like cowardice to like kind of let you believe, yeah, this guy's definitely capable of ritual sacrificing to try to kill somebody, because he's too scared to get his own hands dirty or like order the death of somebody. So he's just gonna like pray to a demon god to like basically destroy his foe.
Get her, please.
I do think the crucial part of this conversation as well is like Royal's telling her, it's like, no, we need you, and she's like, why? Like, these plans came off without a hitch, through no involvement of me. Like the Gjorn got taken by him, like, just because. So I had nothing to do with that.
Oh, it's funny because she doesn't realize it in a way she did. Like, he took the thing himself because of her outsmarting him, basically. But she has no way to know that. So.
Yeah, she has no way of knowing that.
And Royal has taken notice of Dilloff, and he's like, I've been watching this dude. He's from Erelon, which means that he was probably raised Hrathi, and those who've turned away are the most hateful. And Sarene's like, yeah, okay, that's a good point. We're gonna have to deal with him, but we can't deal with him the same way we did Hrathen. So we'll have to come up with new plans. And Royal's like, yeah, there you go. That's my girl. Planning, plotting.
We can't deal with him the way we dealt with Hrathen, by sitting back and letting nature run its course.
It's an interesting note about Royal that he's like one of the richest guys, but he has like a smaller house than most of the other big noblemen. But he makes up for it by having this like ginormous, luxurious like grounds and gardens and stuff. So his party happens out in the gardens because he couldn't fit all these people in his house. And I think it even notes in here that she says he spends more time outside walking around than he does in his house anyway. So, and so Royal's like, so you're going to tell me why you insisted that we have this ball on this specific night? What are you even planning? And she's like, oh, you'll see, maybe. And we get the note that Royal has met her dad. He's like, hey, I haven't been old and senile all my life. There was a time when I traveled, and every good merchant has a few contacts in Teod. I've had 2 audiences with your father, and both times he mocked my wardrobe. Apparently, he's not nice to visiting merchants. We know he's not good at making deals with the merchants either, so they come in here and he makes fun of them and then sends them off to his accountants or something.
Fair business strategy, if he knows he's not good at it.
Right?
It's like, you suck. Go talk to my accountants. I don't even have time for you.
He's like, he mocked my wardrobe. What, were you wearing orange?
And And Royals tried to guess at what her scheme is. Like, oh, so something to do with the king, huh? When she asked if the king's at the party. Maybe little Sarene has sent someone to look through his chambers while he's gone. Like her Seon, maybe? And then Aish, like, floats over, and Royals like, oh, okay, fine.
I love that because he thought he was so clever. Like, I've got you figured out. No, you don't.
Ba-bow.
He's like, I guess that was too obvious. Fine, I'll be sneakier. And Ace shows up to say the cook did lose a serving woman this afternoon. They say she ran off to be with his brother, but he hasn't heard from her. And so I didn't even mention that earlier, but Sarene just was in this like funk where she's like, everybody freaking hates me, and even the cooks like sent my dinner cold, and they said it was because they lost someone, but really I know that they just don't have any respect for me or whatever.
Yeah, they're trying to stay away from me because they're scared or whatever.
Oh yeah, that's what it was. They're scared because of how she yelled at Idaho.
If she yelled at the king, she's definitely going to yell at me. Which, okay, yeah, I can see that train of thought.
Yeah, except we know that her previous interactions with the staff haven't been, even when they forgot to clean her room. The lady's like, oh, I'm so sorry. She's like, yeah, no, it's fine. Just, don't let it happen again.
But also, Serene's going to yell at me, so let's make her dinner late.
Oh, yeah, that'll help.
Yeah, that's
good.
That's
okay,
definitely
good
not the move.
No. But as someone who has anxiety, totally get where Serene comes from. Like, you overthink everything, and you just feel awful about it, and it turns out that no one else is on the same wavelength. Everything's fine. It's all in your head.
Yep. No one, whatever you're so upset about, no one else has even noticed. Yep. And it's just all in your head. Yep, been there. And Royal's like, what was all that about? Like, missing serving women? What do you even... And she's like, oh, nothing. And he's like, yeah, okay, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, sure. And the line, the problem with being clever is everyone assumes you're always planning something. So she sends Aish to go and watch the king and let her know if he tries to leave. Go and watch the king and make sure he doesn't leave. We already did that whole bit in a different episode, so we don't need to...
Yeah, I think it was just the last episode. No, I want you to stay here and make sure he doesn't leave.
After we did the episode, I had to watch that clip on Facebook. Or not Facebook, sorry, YouTube, I don't know.
No, it's all the same now.
It's all internet. And she's like, Royal, do we need to go join the king's private party? And Royal's like, well, no, I'm like the host, so I need to go around talking to people. And Royal's kind of like grinning and laughing at Shuden and Tarina like dancing. Like, one of the joys of my old age is to see young men proven hypocrites. After all those years of swearing, he'd never let himself be caught. Complaining about the women all over him. Now he's got a thing for this girl. And she goes, you're a mean old man. And he's like, yeah, that's how it should be. Mean young men are trivial and kindly old men are boring. So, and then we get... As they're walking around, she's thinking, we get some backstory on her. The one time she was engaged to someone back in Tio, a count named Grayo. I don't even know how you say that.
I read it as Grayo.
Yeah, okay. And she tried to act less offensive than she normally was. And this was the only guy who was like willing to take a shot and be made fun of by the other guys for putting the moves on this, the princess. And she knows, she's like, he was weak-willed and not real smart and had a childish hesitancy about him.
Yeah, the whole package.
Yeah, well. So they got engaged, but she broke it off. She's like, not because she knew that living with the dull-minded Grayo would have driven her mad, but because she realized she was being unfair to him. She was taking advantage of his simple ingenuousness. Sorry, took me a minute with that one. Knowing that he was getting himself in over his head.
Nice guy, just kind of dull.
Apparently. And it's sad because after she breaks up, the guy has to leave the court and like live out on his lands for like 3 years to get over the shame of the whole thing. And that's when she just leaves Tio as part of her father's diplomatic corps and travels all around to all the major cities, from Wern's seat in Fjorden to the Svordish capital. Never allowed to go to Erelon, though.
Which is weird. Like, is that something to do with Elantris or something to do with Keen?
Yeah, I think everyone was scared of what happened to Elantris and didn't know if it was like a disease that might spread or something like that. So that must be it, because it's like her dad barely allowed spies in the country, let alone his daughter. It wasn't until they became desperate for allies that he's like, okay, I guess let's talk to Erelon again.
Fair enough.
And so yeah, she's thinking back to all this stuff, and Royal's like, dude, you look like your best friend just died. And she's like, no, just my husband. And so he has to take another run at her where he's like, you're gonna have to, you can't act all like this whenever we run into any happy people. And she's like, yeah, I know, it's just that kind of night. But also she realizes exactly one of the reasons that Royal doesn't have parties is because the women are just ready to jump all over him, and he can't avoid them easily when he's throwing his own party. And she's like, oh, see, you sound like Shuden. He's like, no, Shuden went about it the wrong way. He ran away. And everyone knows no matter how hard you run, there's always someone faster. I don't run. I enjoy playing games with their greedy little minds. I love Royal. Let's see. Duke Tellery has set up his own kind of private section of the party, like in opposition to the king. And Royal's like, oh, that's a bad sign. An unforeseen effect of your tirade before the king. The more unstable he becomes, the more tempting other options appear. So Tellery is still, although he's lost the support of the Gjorn, so maybe he's not as dangerous. It's hard to say.
Yeah, you have to wonder if did Dilaf know anything about that deal, or
right? Yeah, it's a good question, because he would probably try to take over that agreement if possible.
Right. If he wants Tellery, like if he wants Iadon ousted.
True.
It's true. We really don't know what all Dilaf's personal motivations might be, other than the fact that he hates Elantris.
And also how much of Hrathen's higher plans Dilaf was even in on. He was like the second in command of everything, but he still he definitely doesn't know about the 3-month deadline. And I don't think, he may not have known about the Tellery deal, so.
Well, he made a comment at one point where he's like, we have so little time. And Hrathen's like, how does this guy know about my deadline? And he's like, oh, he must be just like guessing or something. So maybe he does know something about the deadline. We don't know.
Maybe, or he's thinking of something else.
Yeah. I mean, he might have his own timetable for something else entirely.
Summon sea monsters.
And then Royal's Aeon shows up, Oppa. And apparently Oppa is very formal, and he tells Sarene that Oppa oversees the gardens, basically, which is a big job at this particular estate. But Oppa has come to tell him that somebody fell into a fountain? No, a pond. Somebody fell into the pond.
Yeah, it's basically Bruce Wayne's girlfriends swimming in the pool.
And he's like, Lord Raoden fell in. It appears the wine proved too much for him. And Royal's like, oh man, he probably scared the fish. Okay, well, make sure you get some towels and a ride home. Next time, maybe he won't mix ponds with alcohol. So Royal says that most of the nobles actually have Aeons. It's just they don't show them off, because they're too related to Elantris. And so they go over to check out the food tables, make sure everything's going smoothly. And of course, that is where you find Han. And Han's like, yeah, this is the food. The food's the best part of the party, dude. Why would I be anywhere else? And then he's going off on Sarene, like, I wouldn't have let my wife take part in this stupid fencing stuff if I'd known it would ruin her figure. And Sarene's like, wait, ruin? And he's like, look, I'm from South Erlon. To us, round is beautiful, okay? Not everyone wants their women looking like starving schoolboys. And then he stops. He's like, oh, sorry, no offense.
Basically calling her a starving schoolboy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, look, appreciate the body positivity for people who are larger, but don't thin shame.
Also, asshole, just be happy for your wife.
Right?
Yeah. She wants to be thinner, and she likes getting all the exercise at the fencing. Just support her, bro. That's all you gotta do.
And it's just
because your ass hasn't seen a treadmill in months.
Yeah, she wants to outlive you and spend your money, bro.
Yeah, that's how you do. But it's just like she's sitting here eating fruit, and he's like, she refuses to eat. And she's like, I'm enjoying my fruit. Maybe you should have some. He's like, yeah, maybe after I finish this plate of food, I'll try a plate of that. But Han, he's a big dude. What can I say? He knows what he likes, apparently. And he's an asshole. We already kind of knew that, let's be fair. And Royal's like, okay, anyway, we're gonna go now. By the way, you better tell your caravan to hurry. And Han's like, wait, what? What caravan? The one carrying sour melons from Dula del Desforden, of course. I sent a shipment a week ago. It should reach there tomorrow morning. I'm afraid, my friend, that your caravan will arrive to a saturated market, not to mention that your melons will be overripe. And Han's like, what the? How on earth did you manage that? And he's like, well, you didn't know I was partners with Lucal and his whole fruit thing. I got the unripened ones from his shipment last week, and so they'll be ripe by the time they arrive. So Lukel's good business sense is helping out Royal as well to beat Ahan, his frenemy. And Serene's like, wow, you really are as good a businessman as they say. And Royal's like, every bit as good. But that young cousin of yours puts me to shame. I have no idea how he kept that sour melon shipment a secret. My Duladin agents are supposed to inform me of such things. I only got in on the deal because he came to me for capital. Which makes sense. You're like, your friends with Royal, rather. He's one of the richest guys in the country. You need some money for a big deal. Who else are you going to go to? Maybe his dad, I guess. His dad's a rich dude.
Yeah, maybe he wanted to do it like outside of his dad's deal.
Mm. But apparently Lukel has a very promising future, according to this old dude. And that's when Ace shows up, and he's like, the king's leaving.
Yeah, promising future means he will die in this book.
Oh, that's mean. So the king said he was going to the bathroom, but instead he called his carriage. And Serene's like, okay, sorry, Roy, I gotta run. And he's like, Serene, you can't just go. Like, sorry, got stuff to do. Bye.
Yeah, hands off, old man. I gotta go.
It's like he tries to follow her, but she's younger and taller, so longer legs, and also he has a party he's in charge of. He can't just run out. Although he apparently does just run out in a little bit. But when they get to the carriage, the king is not in the carriage, Aish says. He slipped out the other side and disappeared into the shadows. And she's like, okay, come on. I'm not dressed for sneaking, so you're going to have to go ahead and watch him and tell me where he goes. And so we know from later in the chapter that it is at this point that he calls Royal and it's like, this girl's about to try to get herself killed. You gotta come. But he does a very good job of acting like he is 100% just following orders here. So they're sneaking off through the night, and she quickly starts to have second thoughts because she's like, even Kay is not super safe for a woman to be walking around by herself through back alleys in the middle of the night. It's very dark, so apparently Kay is not a city with lanterns and stuff hanging everywhere at night. So he follows the king, she hangs back, and eventually he comes he just entered the sewers. She's like, oh, the sewers. So yeah, she's a little put off by the sewers, which when we find out more about how the sewers work here, I would be too, because ew. And when H comes back and it's like he went in the sewers, she's like, you didn't follow him? I will never be able to tell him. Also, he was joined by someone else. I don't know if I mentioned that, but he was joined by 2 cloaked men after the party and then half a dozen more at the mouth of the sewers. And she's like, wait, you didn't follow? We'll never be able to tell them now. And H goes, well, yeah, that's unfortunate, my lady.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Well, that's too bad. But she's like, no, wait, they'll leave tracks in the muck. We should be able to follow them. And H is like, no, look, Serene, I have to insist. You got to go back to the Duke's party. And she's like, no, not a chance. It's like, it's my duty to protect you. I cannot allow you to go climbing through refuse in the middle of the night. I have to stop this before it goes any further.
Sweet stall tactics, bro. Because even reading this through the first time, I'm like, I'm thinking to myself, he knows he's not going to stop her. So what is he doing? So it makes a lot more sense later when you find out it was just stalling tactics.
Yep. Agreed. It's like, you know this girl well enough to know that this is not going to convince her. He's like, I'll call your daddy on you. And she's like, he lives in Teode. What's he going to do?
Speak loudly at you?
Yeah.
Well.
Like, fine, I'll fly off and get Lord Ianville or one of the others. And she's like, and just leave me to get lost in the sewers by myself? Really? He's like, you'd never do something that foolish. Oh, right. Okay. You are indeed that foolish. And she smiles at that. Like, that's not a compliment, dude. Girl dude. As Scott Pilgrim says.
Girl dudes. Yeah?
Just a girl with hair like this?
Such a terrible drawing.
It totally worked, though.
Como, you know everybody, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, they go. She's walking through the sewers, the gross, disgusting sewers in her nice dress. And she thinks to herself, like, even I wouldn't have been dumb enough to come in here without any guidance. Fortunately, my bluff worked, so not sure whether or not to be offended by the level of arrogant idiocy he thought her capable of. It's true. Like, I would have said the same thing, dude, and I don't even know you as well as he does, so... So apparently, Elantrian magic used to have running water in all the houses in K, but now they just dump trash and shit down here, and then every once in a while they divert the river to wash it all out.
So, I mean, like a regular sewer, I guess.
Not exactly.
I mean, a regular sewer in the time, this kind of level of technology.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
This also adds a bit more to this is how Raoden and Karada got out that one time. If other Elantrians knew how to get that and picked the wrong night to use the river to escape, they could have wound up down here.
Oh, that's true. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Apparently they don't do it super often because she's like, it hasn't been done in a while. The wet muck comes up to her ankles. Bah.
But could you imagine, like, Iadon and his buddies are doing a sacrifice, when all of a sudden, like, the water washes up and some Elantrians come out, just like, hey guys, what's going on?
Yeah, also, like, the fact that the muck comes up to her ankles, I'm like, man, I hope she hasn't been doing what women I know do, and by that I mean wear super uncomfortable shoes that leaves open wounds on their heels.
No.
Yeah.
So as they're floating, or as Aish is floating, and she's wading through the sewer, he's like, so how did you know the king was going to leave the party? And she's like, oh, you can figure it out. And he's like, let me assure you, I have tried. So it is the one night of the week that she has always heard someone sneaking out through that passage. So whatever this is, at 11 o'clock this day of the week, every week, he sneaks out. So figured if it's that important, he wants to keep to his schedule, then he'll leave the party and we'll be able to follow him and find out. And it had to be a late party because it had to be out until at least midnight, but the eclipse made a convenient excuse. So there you go. And Aisha's like, I don't like that. This is a bad idea. What would the king be doing down here at midnight? And Serene's like, well, that's what we're here to find out. And she has a thought that maybe Prince Raoden is alive and imprisoned down in the sewers. And then they hear voices. They're like, okay, dim your light. We're going to sneak up on him. And so Sarene starts to sneak up to this corner where she can see torchlight around the corner. And she's going to peek around. But she does not notice that the floor declines just before the intersection. Her feet slip. Arms waving desperately. She slides down and comes to a halt right in the middle of the intersection where everyone can see her. And like the 6 people and Iadon are just like staring like, where did you come from? And she's staring back. The king is naked except for blood smeared on his chest, has a knife in his hand, and the remains of an eviscerated young woman tied to the altar, completely sliced open. Ugh.
I mean, ritual sacrifice is one thing, but why does he have to be naked?
I know, right? And he's the only one naked,
Whatever.
apparently, because the others still have black robes on. So, yeah, it's weird.
Well, maybe you're right. Maybe he was just done with the whole fertility side.
The others just get to watch.
That's his OnlyFans account.
Oh.
Aw.
Well, apparently it smells really bad down here, too. So this is not fun for anybody, I don't think. Except for Iadon. Apparently he's enjoying himself in some way. And so, also, there's a dozen black-robed forms behind him, all carrying daggers, and they start coming after her. And she wavers between the urge to retch and her mind's insistence that she scream, and the screams came out on top. And she would be super dead if not for the fact that all of a sudden Eondel comes around the corner and just slices an arm off a dude, and other guys from his officers come in, and they have a fight. And then around the corner comes Dilloff, does not join in the fighting, but just stands off to the side with a fascinated look on his face. I can see how if you were not, yeah, so cool. I can see if you weren't reading closely, it would seem like maybe Dilloff was just already there and he was hanging out in the back.
He's just hanging out. Again, it's just like, I live here.
Yeah.
You guys came into my house.
It was my turn to host the ritual sacrifice, and sorry to drag everyone down in the sewer, but rent is tough.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard out here for a pimp.
Yep. Priests don't make as much as you'd think. Lord Jadeth requires a lot of sacrifice, and so this is
my
another
side
one of those
hustle.
things. Yeah, renting out my room to ritual sacrifices for just scary mysteries.
I don't believe in what they're doing, but I'm not opposed to it either.
You know, money's
Yeah,
money.
live and let live, or I guess in this case, live and let die. But
Live and let murder.
yeah, live and let murder. Yeah, James Bond, live and let die. There's much of voodoo in that one.
There is.
There was.
I like the song on that one a lot, actually.
Yeah, it's Paul McCartney, isn't it? It's a good song.
Yep.
Is it? I didn't remember that.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
Paul McCartney.
Makes sense then. He's that guy can write and sing a song. In case you guys weren't aware.
Yeah,
he's pretty good at that.
He's a talented guy. In case you didn't know, I'm pretty sure he was a Beatle, so that makes sense, I guess.
Well, I mean, you
I don't see
laugh,
what-
but a few years ago he did a guest appearance at some concert with Kanye West.
Oh,
and
yeah,
like
I heard about this.
all the young people in the crowd started going, "Well, who's this Paul McCartney guy? He's gonna hit it really big after singing with Kanye." Like, oh Jesus, guys.
yeah,
Yeah,
I remember that.
after that happened, I asked a girl at work, or I asked the room at large at work. I was like, okay, if I tell you these two names, who do you say is more famous? And I said Kanye West and Paul McCartney, and literally everybody except the youngest girl there said Paul McCartney. The youngest girl was like, Kanye West, who's Paul McCartney? And I was like, oh God. The worst thing, the girl was a music major in college.
Oh.
Yeah, it was real
Dude,
bad.
It's like, I get that, some younger people may not know music history and the Beatles were a while ago. I get that. But if he's still around and doing stuff and you see him on stage, do you not just like pull him up on Wikipedia or something?
Right,
Exactly.
exactly. Like, oh, the Beatles. I've heard of them, sure.
The Beatles. Do you think it's like the Bug? Do you think that's what they meant?
Well, I was actually gonna say that you're like he was a Beatle, and I was like, I don't see what him being a bug has to do with anything, but all right.
What do you mean? He has like a really hard exoskeleton? I don't understand.
Okay, so Sarene is trying to stand up in the sewage and just keep slipping down, and finally, like, Royal has to help her up. Like, the old 70-year-old dude's like, here, let me help you up here. Maybe next time you'll tell me what you're planning, princess. And we cut to them, like, sitting in a room at, like, Royal's house later. And Serene's like, hey, you told him? She's like, yeah. She's like, yeah, of course I told him. What are you talking about? When? And I don't even remember if I mentioned before. It's like she swapped for a robe because that was better than her velvet dress covered with sewage. Which, that on velvet in particular, like, oh, geez.
Yeah, that would be gross.
That's getting burned. And Royal's like, oh, he called Opa as soon as you left the driveway. And she's like, really, that soon? Aisha says, I knew that you were never going to turn back no matter what I said, so.
He's also like, hey, they would have killed you.
Yeah.
You would be dead if not for me.
And she's like, well, why'd you try to stop me then? And he's like, well, I was stalling. The Duke insisted on coming himself, and his group moved slowly. I like the implications, like, okay, Royal's an old dude, and so the group had to move a little slowly. I mean, what can I say? And Royal's like, dude, I might be slow, but I was not about to miss whatever you were planning. Like, I'm super curious, okay? And the soldiers were just already at the party, so Royal ran around gathering up some guys, and they took off. And so she's like, okay, so after I ran off, Aish told Yusayan that I was pursuing the king, and he's like, actually, I think his exact words were, the foolish girl is going off to get herself killed. And she's like, Aish! And he says, I apologize, my lady. I was rather out of sorts. I like their relationship. It's great. And this is, I think, a little bit different side of it than we've ever gotten to see before, where they're not really in agreement. And they're not always in agreement, but he's, like, doing stuff behind her back for her own good.
And I mean, lucky he did.
Yeah, exactly.
That would have ended very poorly for Sarene.
Like, Ion would have basically gotten his wish, where it's like, he was asking the door or whatever to kill her, and it's like, oh, hey, she showed up and no one knows she's here. We can kill her. How convenient. For my next wish, that's yes. They go through the sewers. They hear her screaming, and Eondel shows up, and Royal's like, geez, you are really lucky to have that man's loyalty. She's like, yeah, I know. This is like the second time this week his sword has saved me, basically. And she's like, I'm going to kick the king next time I see him for convincing the nobility that military training is beneath them. And Royal's like, you're probably going to have to stand in line to kick the king's ass. None of the city's priests are going to be happy with the king taking part in just scary mysteries.
I don't know. Dilaf seemed kind of into it.
I think
Dilaf is a special breed.
I feel like
I think he was more observing, like, interesting, fascinating, Captain.
I feel like Dilaf was recognizing an opportunity.
Yeah,
is what was happening.
How can I make this work for me?
Yeah, I don't feel bad about any of this. I just want to know how I can manipulate it.
I'm just gonna go, oh boy. How many more things could go my way? Going, Raisin's gone. The king's doing some weird shit.
Especially if he does know about the Tellery thing and he's now in a position to make that all work, because the king is obviously going to be in some trouble here. So he may think, here's my opportunity to get all the glory for converting Erelon. But Aish kind of brings them all back down again by being like, and sacrificing that poor woman. And everyone's like, oh, right. And Lugal's like, really? So that's really what it was? And Serene's like, yeah, the mystery sometimes involves sacrifices. Iadon must have wanted something very badly. And Royal's like, oh yeah, Dilloff said he knew some stuff about this, and he seemed to think the king was petitioning the Jesker spirits to destroy someone for him. She's like, oh shit, me? And Royal's like, yeah, Dilloff said the instructions were written on the altar in the woman's blood.
Creepy.
Oh boy.
So we've discovered what's happening to all the maids and cooks who are disappearing from the palace. We're not going to get any of them back, but at least we know what was going on.
Mhm.
Presumably that
We
will stop
know-
disappearing.
Right, hopefully, yeah.
We also know why perhaps Iadon treats women with such disdain. If he
Maybe.
if he
That's good.
regularly sacrifices them, or whatever.
It's a good point. The others were all minor nobles. Iadon wouldn't have involved anyone who could challenge him, Royal says. And Serene's like, hey, hold on. Where did Dilloff come from? And Royal's like, yeah, that's my bad. He saw me gathering Eandel's men, and I was kind of in a hurry, and he followed us, and we didn't really have time to deal with him. Which, yeah, if they'd showed up like 5 seconds later, she might have been dead. So they really didn't have time. And then Ahan comes in, and he's like, holy crap. First you oppose the king, then you rescue the king. Now you dethrone the king. Will you please make up your mind, woman? And she's like, so there's no chance of keeping this a secret? And Royal's like, oh no, Dilloff has already told like half the city. So tell her he's definitely going to take power now. Where's Eandel locking the king in a jailhouse? And where's Shuden? Still saying that the women got home safe, I assume. And so she's like, okay, we're going to have to come up with a plan, a new plan, and mostly it's going to be damage control. And that's the end of that chapter, which, yeah, you're going to need a plan. There's one interesting annotation from this section that I just thought was kind of an interesting writing note, where he says, so Serene's extended internal narrative about Gario remains in the book despite slight dissatisfaction on my part with this section. It feels a little expository, and we've gotten implications regarding these things before. I'm not sure we really learn anything new about Serene's character here. We just get some specifics about her past. However, one of the nice things about a book like this, or just books in general as opposed to movies, is you don't have to worry too much about every scene and every moment. I don't have to shave seconds quite intensely as a filmmaker might, or even shave words as an author of a shorter work might. I can afford some diversions like this, even if they just kind of ramble a bit. So maybe that's a spoiler that probably Gario is not going to show up and be the Dread Pirate Roberts or whatever, but
Greyo was Driok Crossthroat.
yeah.
Dude, that'd be pretty sick.
Did it all
Be
because
you
Serene
scored
rejected him.
me.
Yep.
Yeah, you scored me, and now I am the dreaded pirate Crush Throat.
But it's an interesting note about writing where he's just like, sometimes I come up with a cool idea and I don't have to cut it out because it's not a movie and I'm not like shaving seconds here and there. So then we move to Hrathen, who at the beginning of his chapter has been in Elantris for 3 days, having spent all that time in prayer, apparently. He's thirsty and hungry, and so he finally decides to take a break. He's going to eat the moldy old bread and vegetables and stuff. And I don't know if the implication here, it's like he was thirsty and hungry, and he'd fasted before, but this hunger was somehow different, like his body was trying to warn him of something. And so I don't know if since we're still not sure that it was that potion that did it at this point, is this trying to imply that he really has become an Elantrian, and like the hunger is somehow different for Elantrians because we know what that's like for them?
I wanted to think, basically at this point, or by this point, I was having doubts about my theory that he really was Elantrian because of what Jamie and Dak had said. So at this point, when I'm reading this, I was like, if it's been 3 days, that's like the longest the human body can go without drinking something. So my guess is that it's more in reference to, especially now with the hindsight, it's more in reference to the fact that he has gone 3 days without consuming anything. So his body's probably trying to tell him, like, hey, you're going to die if you don't eat or drink.
And he's sitting here contemplating, because it's that same night, and he's seeing the eclipse that they were having that party to watch. And he's contemplating, like, the kind of majesty. He's like, I kind of get it, how, like, some of these, like, this Jesker religion could regard the moon with worship and stuff in these more primitive cultures. So he's like, I can't be like that. I'm not going to have that kind of simple-minded devotion. And he's thinking about his own faith, and he's like, look, I'm not a zealot. I'm never going to have this extreme passion. In the end, he followed Shu-Dareth because it made sense. That would have to be enough. And here's where it starts to give hints, because he's like, he didn't know how long it would be until he left Elantris. His exile could last days. So he knows that something is that this is not gonna be permanent, which is a big old hint that it's like, oh wait, this is part of the plan. So yeah, he takes the basket, eats the gross food, even some of the corn, the hard grain, softened slightly by their extended bath in Elantris slime, which, okay, ew, but whatever.
Yeah.
Disgusting.
Yeah. Downs the flask of wine.
Slime makes it go down easy.
Ugh.
Spoonful of slime helps the medicine go down. The medicine go down. Yeah, it's gross.
So he decides that he might lack passion, but he has all the determination he needs, and he goes back to praying. He's like, I'm just going to have to do what I've always done, do my best serving Lord Jadis Empire. There was nothing else God could expect of him.
It's like, it makes sense, but I do feel it's like, oh man, he finally got thrown into Elantris, and he could have like gone around and done some stuff in there. It's like, I understand why he's sitting at the gates praying until he gets better. I get that, but it just seems a bit, man, he could have done more and had a bit more of an action-packed chapter in here.
Yeah, it feels like an opportunity wasted. I agree.
Yeah.
So we cut to Raoden. That was a very short chapter. And like you said, it's very introspective. There's barely anything that actually happens, but I think for Hrathen's character, it's kind of a turning point because he seems to have reached a decision in his crisis of faith that he's been having.
That's true.
And actually, in the annotations, Brandon says this is a major turning point for Hrathen. His part of the book pivots on this chapter, and the decisions he makes here will influence what he does going forward. I think the important realization he realizes here is that not every person's faith manifests in the same way. He's different from other people, and he worships differently. That doesn't make his faith inferior.
That's cool.
Fair enough.
Yeah. And so here's some interesting background that we never get to get that I'm going to. So he goes, when I designed this book, I knew I wanted a religious antagonist. Actually, the idea for the Dorethi religion was one of the first conceptual seeds for this novel. I've always been curious about the relationship between the Catholic Church and the Roman Empire. While Rome itself had declined in power, the church that grew with it, almost as a side effect, had become one of the dominant forces in the world, and I wondered what would happen if an empire decided to do something like that intentionally. The early Dorethi leaders, then, were a group who realized the problems with the old feudal empire. It collapsed upon itself because of bureaucratic problems. The old empire was faced with rebellions and wars and never managed to become stable. The Dorethi founders realized the power of religion. They decided that if they could get the nations of the East to believe in a single religion, with that religion centered in Fjorden, that they would have power equal to or even greater than the power of the old empire. At the same time, they wouldn't have to worry about rebellion or even bureaucracy. The peoples of other nations would govern themselves, but would give devotion, loyalty, and money to Fjorden. So, these men appropriated the teachings of Shu-Dereth, mixed them with some mythology from the old feudal empire. The resulting hybrid added the feudal martial work ethic, created an aggressive, intense religion, yet one that was constructed with a logical purpose in mind. And the priests spent the next few centuries converting and building their power base. The result is a new empire without governments or armies, yet far more powerful than the old empire was. So, background on this religion and this empire is kind of interesting to me. So, if we remember, last Raoden chapter, he'd come up with his plan to jog Sheor's wild men back into being human again, basically, by reminding them of what it was like to be civilized. Turns out that plan didn't work super well, not the way he intended anyway. A few of them came that night to cook their food, but most of them did not. They came for another reason.
Yep, they presented the wig of godhood.
Yeah.
They really did.
So they walk up, they give him, it says the head of their former god, or at least her hair. They toss the wig at his feet. It's follicle stained with dark, stagnant Elantrian blood. They have not been able to find Sheor's body, and then they all bow down to him, and they're like, and as he puts it, it's like when these simple minds are faced with a force more powerful than their own god, there's only one thing they can do: convert and worship this new god.
We will read things off you, then do them. Free us from thought and responsibility.
Yep. So
we are dumb.
We are dumb. Oh, that's such a great bit.
Yeah, one of my favorite bits from the whole show, I think.
Yeah. Oh gosh, but no. So now he's using them like basically they'll do whatever he tells them. they're docile and they'll just, he tells them go there, do this, they go there, do that, and he rewards them with bits of food just as one would a favored pet. And it disturbs him to use men like beasts, and he was trying to restore their minds, but even after 2 days, he knows that it's a futile hope.
Not gonna lie, I legit thought he was just gonna have a whole crisis and just go, all right, let me just lead these guys in single file to the pool and just sort of send them all in one after the other.
I wouldn't blame him, honestly.
Yeah.
I guess although while they're providing manpower at the moment,
Yeah.
let it go.
Still has use for him.
Yep, they're moving rocks. And apparently the pain doesn't seem to affect them much. They'll do anything he asks, no matter how menial or laborious. It says if he told them to push on a building until it fell over, he expected he'd return days later to find them still standing there, pushing on the building. Yet, despite their apparent obedience, oh yeah, no.
Yeah.
He does not trust them still, which I don't blame him because they just murdered their last god. So what would it take for them to kill you? Probably not much.
Yep.
And so we go off, and Raoden has apparently been explaining everything he learns about the Aeon Door to Galadon and Karada. And he's really trying to study and learn everything fast and communicate the information to them because he can feel the pain growing worse. He says it's only been 5 weeks since he got here, and he doubted he would see another 5 weeks. So we're 5 weeks since the beginning of this book. That is not long.
Nope.
Considering. So yeah, when Sarene told her dad she's going to wait 2 months to overthrow anything, this is like barely a month.
Now, to be fair, all she happened to do was stumble into a room and found him naked over a corpse. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, she did set up the plan so that she would find out what he was doing. It's not like she was just coincidentally in that sewer.
No, but she didn't expect and just like, I'm just going to follow this guy, and by doing so topple his rule.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be great if she had just stumbled into the sewer, though? Like, oh, what a nice night for a stroll. Oh, look, a sewer. Let me check this out. I love architecture.
Fast deal off while he charges admission, and oh, look, naked people and dead people. And they aren't the same people.
Galadon is annoyed. Like, I don't see why we have to try to learn all this. I barely understand half of what you're saying, dude. And Raoden's like, it's really important. If something happens to me, somebody has to be able to carry on figuring out what is wrong with us and trying to fix this. And so today, his new discovery is, I know why Elantris is covered with slime. So all the rocks and everything used to glow, and it turns out that there was like a mold or a fungus that grew on everything, like a kind of a thin sheen of transparent whatever that fed off the magical light. And everyone kind of ignored it because it didn't bother anyone and actually made the glow look cooler. It says it enhanced the radiance. It was tough, didn't make a mess until it died. So lights turn off, the fungus rots, the entire city is covered with slime. And I guess it's like kind of oily. It's like an oil-based slime because that's why the water pounding on it from rain and stuff doesn't wash anything away. And so Karada's like, wow, there's a lot of cool stuff in these books, huh? Cannot find any mention of how to make Seons. And he's like, I always assumed that Seons were created by Aeon Door, but if so, these books don't explain anything about it. A lot of them talk about the passing of famous Seons from one person to another, but that's about it. And then they have a discussion about how Seons work and how you can pass one to someone else or tell it who it's supposed to go to and serve if you should die. And Karada's like, wait, so you mean like an ordinary person could have a Seon? I thought it was only nobility. And Raoden's like, well, it's all up to the previous owner. And Galadon jumps in to say, well, nobility are not likely to pass their Seon to a random peasant. Seons, like wealth, tend to stay in the family. Colo? And Karada brings up an important point that I think we've talked about before. So what happens if the owner dies and no one has told the Seon where to go? And Raoden's like, I don't know. And Galadon's like, don't look at me. I have no idea.
Yeah. And just like with any question that people don't know, he's just like, I don't know. The Force?
Yeah. The door? That's your answer for everything. And then we end the chapter with Daishi running in. It's like, my lord, the Gjorn has been healed. And I don't know if I feel like that's a cliffhanger. It's like he's been healed. I guess we don't know what the reaction to it is going to be, but it's not like, my lord, something insane has happened. And then that's the end. Like, we don't know what it is. We know what it is.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely like a holy shit note to end the chapter on. But the fact remains, like, the next chapter ends on the same note.
Yeah,
so
you're right.
I mean, I like that it aligns everything. I like that we know that they're all up to the same spot.
And so we got to Sarene and her dad having a talk. 5 weeks and you've already dethroned a king. Never let it be said you don't work quickly. And she's like, well, it's not like I intended to. I tried to save him. He shouldn't have gotten mixed up in the Jesker mysteries. And dude's like, I shouldn't have sent you there. You were bad enough when I let you visit our enemies. I wonder what she did as part of the diplomatic corps that he's like, oh no.
She's probably just like, Teod's better than all of you, so we're gonna get what we want, and you're gonna listen to me because I'm, I'm very forward.
And so yeah, the king already knows that Iadon is dead, and Serene's like, oh, you've heard? And he's like, look, I've got a few news. Yeah, exactly. Some the word on the street. But he says he's got some new spies in Erelon recently. I'm not going to leave my daughter alone in the country without keeping an eye on her. And she's like, who? He's like, you don't need to know who. And she's sitting here trying to figure it out. She's like, they have to have a say-on, otherwise you wouldn't know. He only hanged himself last night. I'm not going to tell you who the spy is, okay? If you knew, you would just appropriate him for your own purposes. It's like, fine. You're going to tell me who it is. I love this. Their relationship is just always fun. And even when it's like this national emergency and he's like, I got my spies. And she's like, who? I want to know who the spy is. Who's the spy? It's a great father-daughter.
No, he's my spy, not yours.
Exactly. It's like you would just try to steal.
Get your own spy.
Get your own spy. Get your own spy.
Then it'd be like spy versus spy.
Oh, man, I haven't thought that about a while.
And so, yeah, she's like, I guess Lord, he says, how do you get the rope? And she says Lord Eondel must have arranged it. He thinks like a warrior, and it was a very efficient solution. We don't have to force an abdication, and suicide restores some dignity to the monarchy. And he's like, dude, a little bloodthirsty, aren't we? And she's like, you did not see him. He didn't just murder the girl. He enjoyed doing it. And he's like, my sources say that Telri will probably take the throne. And Serene's like, not if we can help it. Telri would be even worse than Iadon. He's not just a Drethi sympathizer. He'd be a terrible king. Not that Iadon was like a prize king, but... And he thinks, he's like, well, a civil war is not going to help anybody. And she's like, no, it's not going to. You have no idea how non-militaristic these people are. Living for centuries under Elantrian protection, they don't think in those kind of terms. So we're going to try to get royal crowned, basically. And then lunch gets delivered, and we get an interesting little thing where he's like, oh, what are you having? Oh, but it's good. I'm not allowed to eat anything good.
Yeah,
it's a
very weird moment. She's like, I'm gonna use some butter on it. He's like, oh god, butter.
Butter.
The first thing I thought was like, oh, if you really like food so much, maybe you shouldn't have kicked out your cook brother.
Yeah, that's why actually his wife was like, we can't keep eating all of these like delicious delicacies. And he's like, fine, you want me to kick my brother out of the kingdom? I'll kick him out of the kingdom.
Well, I don't know if you noticed, but when he sighs, it's like your mother has a new fascination, Hragish weed soup.
Isn't that the thing that
Luke used it, yeah.
Yeah.
Luke was talking about? Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, when Keen's house is empty, he's like, who stole my whole family? And Luke was like, nobody stole us. We just heard you were making Hragish weed soup again. So
it's like we were out.
So everyone seems to agree this is not a great dish.
Also, in terms of name dropping, Crushed Throat is out. Hragish weed soup is in.
Yep.
How many times are we going to talk about this?
Yeah. It turns out Crushed Throat, like we said, since he's like a master chef, it's actually Keen. He like invented ragweed.
Yep,
soup.
there you go. It all comes together somehow.
Yep.
Okay.
All I think whenever I hear this is Shrek just going, oh, Hragish weed soup. No, I don't mean to brag, but I make a mean Hragish weed soup. There's some weed rat.
My image of Keen has just kind of changed.
Turned into a large green Michael Myers.
Yep.
Well, apparently Keen is a very big dude.
Sure.
But and the king is nowhere near
Green?
that big. I didn't say green, so I don't, maybe not. It doesn't say he's not green though, so what does
Green
that say?
rhymes with Keen.
Yeah, it's
Coincidence?
technically his name is like Kyan, so.
Damn it.
The next time they're all over at his house for dinner, they hear from the kitchen going, Donkey, what are you doing here?
So they have a whole discussion about like Jindo notions of health, and he's like, well, in Doolittle they think fat people are attractive. Like, why do we have to care about what the Jindo think are healthy? Where has it been proven that butter makes you fat? Bread makes you fat?
Yep. You get fat. Why? Bread makes you fat. Bread makes you
That
fat.
makes you fat.
Scott Pilgrim.
It's like,
Maybe
you know
they
what?
should swap it out for cauliflower.
Yeah,
Yeah.
see?
100%.
Maybe they don't have
Yeah.
cauliflower on sale. They need to like get some of that there.
I mean, if they got ragweed, surely they got cauliflower.
Maybe ragweed is cauliflower.
It's
Yeah,
true.
it could be.
I bet it's
Dun,
actually
dun,
kale
dun.
It's kale, exactly, or
It
sunchoke
has to be kale
or
or
something.
similar.
or
Yeah.
seaweed.
Oh, I can see seaweed being called raggish weed. Yeah, okay. She's like, you know what the Jindo say? If it burns, it isn't healthy. He's like, I haven't had wine in 10 years.
Everything burns. I don't know what they're talking about.
He's like, raggish weed soup burns if you dry it out enough. And I tried, and she's like, I doubt Mother responded well to that little experiment. But there's a bit in the annotations where he's like, so the Jindoese food section is another one of these potentially out of place sections, but I had a lot of fun writing it. I'm interested in the fact that some more quote-unquote primitive cultures often understand the same things that modern medicine and science do, they just can't quite explain themselves to our satisfaction. So it makes sense to me that a culture like the Jindoese might figure out that a diet lower in fats is good for you, but they might not completely understand why. Anyway, poor Evan Tio doesn't get to eat butter anymore.
If it
Yup.
burns, it isn't healthy. No sriracha for you.
Ugh, that's a different kind of burn. Also, one other note that he makes, he says, an interesting note about this book is how small the armies are. Often in books, you deal with armies that are tens or even hundreds of thousands in the big war epics. It makes sense to me that in Elantris they're talking about hundreds of men, not thousands. This may seem like a ridiculous number for a defense force, but I imagine Irulan being a small country, quite isolated, and as noted in the text, rather innocent. They only need police forces. My editor was worried about my use of the word legion, actually, for Iandel's personal force, saying that dictionary-wise, a legion is much larger. While this may be true, I think the fact that they call it Iandel's Legion in caps, or both words capitalized, rather, makes it a proper noun, and that makes it usable. It's kind of an honorary title rather than a descriptive name.
Yeah, it's like Dumbledore's army. There was only
Yeah.
like a dozen of them.
Exactly. See, there you go.
It's true. Although a dozen wizards, that's quite an army.
That's
Hmm.
true.
Depends on how good they are. I mean, some of those guys started out pretty sucky.
Oh, they got taught by the best. You know?
So-
HP.
Anyway, he's like, okay, I gotta go. Thanks for taking the time to call your poor old dad every once in a while to let him know you've overthrown a whole nation. By the way, as soon as we found out about Eidon's suicide, Sanderlanche commandeered one of my fastest ships and set sail for Irulan. He should be there in a few days. And she's like, what's the Patriarch having to do with any of this? And he says, I don't know. He wouldn't tell me, but I gotta go, bye. And so the Patriarch,
I'm
I
with
guess...
Sarene here. The patriarchy's the worst, am I right?
So I guess this guy's like the Pope of Shu-Korath, is what we're finding out here.
So
Royal's
he's
like,
not Viking Pope.
No,
What,
yeah.
What is he? He's like,
he's well, Shu-Korath is all about love, so it's like hippie Pope. I don't know.
yeah, or maybe like, let's call him Cupid Pope.
Vash the Stampede Pope, love and peace.
Peace.
I hope he turns up in tie-dye.
With like
Shows
long
up.
braided hair and a headband.
Yeah, he's actually
Yeah.
the dude. He's just like, hey man.
Oh, the Church of the Latter-day Dude.
Yeah.
I love
He's
that.
like, that rug really tied the room together, man.
Just walks in, just like, White Russians, let's go.
This
He's like,
aggression
"I
will
used
not
to-"
stand, man.
Yeah, this aggression will not stand, man. He's like, oh shoot, I lost it with the aggression will not stand. Never mind.
Fuck it, dude. Let's go bowling.
Yeah, it's like you have to use so many cuss words, hippie pope or dude pope. He's like, the fuck you talking about?
And so they cut to Royal being like, hey, I've never met the Patriarch. Is he like Father Omen? And Sarene goes, no. Sanderlanche is a self-serving egotist with enough pride to make a Derethi Gjorn look humble. And Iandel's like, what the? Hey, that's the father of our church. You can't say stuff like that.
I also remembered it now. It's like, you know, you're talking to Dude Pope. He's like, yeah, I used to be in the music industry. It's like, oh yeah? It's like, yeah, I was a roadie for
Metallica.
Speed of Sound tour.
Oh gosh. And she's like, calm down, Iandel. You don't have to ward off evil. I'm not going to reject Domi because he put a fool in charge of his church. Fools need to have a chance to serve too. And like Royal's laughing at her, and she's like, what? He's like, you have, like, you're more opinionated than anyone, male or female, that I have ever met. And she's like, well, you must live a sheltered life, dude. Anyway. And we get some talk about Keen's dining room, decorated with his travel mementos.
There's his throat-crushing gauntlets on the wall.
Yeah, exactly, right. And Lukel comes in, is like, Telri's definitely going to trying to take the throne. And Dill's like, well, not with my legion backing Royal, he won't. And Ahan also has just come in. He's like, well, you have like only a dozen men here. And Sarene goes, well, that's more than Telri has. And Ahan says, not anymore. The Elantris city guard have left their posts and set up camp outside Telri's mansion. And Dill's like, those guys, what losers. Like, they can barely fight. And Ahan's like, yeah, but there are more than 600 of them. So at 50-1 odds, even I would fight against your legion. That's fair.
Clearly, this dude's never heard the story of the 300, but whatever.
I don't know that Dill's guys are the 300, but okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's true, I guess. Also, they don't have a geographical location that protects them from being routed.
It's true. They're gonna go fight at the gates of Elantris and stand right there for some reason. And so they're all sitting here like nobody can come up with a plan for how they can get around the fact that, I mean, Telri is wealthier, so what are they going to do? Technically, the law would make him king. And he also has the military edge now. So, and Shuden kind of hesitantly perks up. He's like, I might have an idea. They're like, okay, well, Sarene is very wealthy. Raoden left her at least 500,000 dios. I don't think we've ever heard their currency named before this, so we have no idea how much that is. But 500,000 of almost anything is a lot. So,
yeah.
Yeah, even in pesos, that's pretty good.
And Luke was like, we've already talked about this. She has a lot of money, but still less than Royal. So I guess she must have a pretty large amount of money if they're comparing it to Royal, who's like the second or third most rich guy in the country. So, and Shuden's like, well, yeah, but if they had their money pooled together, it would be way more than Telri. And Aish is like,
just speaking of like the money and everything that got left behind, what about Iadon's fortunes? Has Queen Eshin just inherited that? Could they try and get her on?
yeah.
Could they get her on side?
I bet you a lot of his money is the merchant stuff is probably tied up in like trade, and I would guess, based on what we've seen so far, that the other major merchants are just kind of cut up all of his trade agreements between themselves and steal all his market.
Well, and we know that he was only like the richest because he counted tax revenues as part of his personal revenue for the country, but he would still have a lot of money that, yeah, maybe they should get Eshin involved. That's a good thought.
Was it his money's all tied up in like the Rose Barbarians, the equivalent of like the Cayman Islands Offshore Banking Corporation or something?
Yeah. He's like, I'm not liquid, John. I'm not liquid.
But yeah, Aish points out that her marriage contract technically is now void. It dissolved as soon as Iadon killed himself and removed his line from the throne. As soon as someone else becomes king, she will no longer be an Araline princess. So if they can combine their two fortunes, they will not only have enough money to be the richest and therefore in charge, but they will have this claim of lineage because she was Iadon's daughter by contract. So it would have like that backing as well, and so people would probably support it. And Royal's like, yeah, I guess. I mean, the marriage would be strictly political, Sarene. And she goes, yeah, I understand. We will do what must be done. So yeah, it's not the most romantic moment, which is exactly what Royal says in the next scene. Like, I'm sorry, that wasn't very romantic. And she says it's all right. That's how political marriages are supposed to be: dry, contrived, but extremely useful. And he's trying to tell us, like, I meant what I said. This will only be a union of convenience. Do not fear yourself obligated in any other way. And she's like, well, I mean, there will need to be heirs. And he laughs. He's like, no, thanks, but no. Even if it were physically possible, I couldn't go through with it. He's an old dude. What can I tell you? He's not Hugh Hefner. And they don't
Things
have
don't work down there no more.
I'm glad he's not Hugh Hefner. Hugh Hefner's dead.
Well, that's true too. Yep.
Spoiler. If you're somehow
Spoiler for real life.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
spoiler for reality.
if you somehow are listening to this and had not heard of Hugh Hefner's demise,
Like 3 years ago or something.
yeah, exactly, however long ago it was, sorry.
This is-
You're hearing it first. I don't have great bedside manner. I'm no doctor.
Dude's dead. Get over it.
Jeez.
This time your wedding contract won't forbid remarrying after I die. When I'm gone, you can finally choose a man of your own preference. And by that time, we'll have replaced Iadon's silly system with something more stable. Your children with your third husband will inherit the throne. And she's like, wow, okay. I mean, if it does go that way, then at least I'll have something worth attracting a new husband with. The throne would be a tempting prize, even if I were attached to it. It's like, look, okay, this is something we've been needing to talk about, actually. You are way too hard on yourself. You're a great judge of character of everybody except yourself, apparently. You are, like, worthy of being loved, and he's just really nice and encouraging, and he's like a sweet old dude here.
Yeah,
Really
I
nice
guess it is nice, but at the same time, it's like, okay, that's pretty rich, dude. You telling her like, hey, we need to talk about this. You're a great person. When he was just like, you don't need to worry about trying to have sex with me or producing heirs. I'm old. I'm an old man. I'm not for you. You'll find another husband. I'll die soon. Don't worry. Like, he was basically just doing the same thing.
Yeah.
I sort
That's
of
pretty-
read that more coming from a place where he's like, look, I'm not going to make you do that.
Yeah, right.
You can do better than me. And this
Which may
marriage is
be
not about love.
true. Which may be true. That all may be true. But also, like, that he's... And, of course, she's younger, so she shouldn't be thinking these things about herself. But he's basically chastising her for doing the exact same thing that he is doing.
Well, no, because I think it's a little bit different because he's like, look, you have this perception of yourself as like an old maid, but you're actually young and beautiful. So, and that's fair because heck, that's one of the first things Jamie said when we started the book was like, I'm not real happy about this. You're an old maid at 25 stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's true.
What does it do for the rest of us at 32, man?
Yeah. And that made me laugh too, because in this section I think she even thinks, well, I'll only be in my 30s by then. I guess that's not that old.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And he says in the annotations here, he's like, the scene in the carriage has been there from the beginning, but I changed it a little bit. His line, you're an excellent judge of character except for your own, is something that I think needed to be said to Sarene at some point in the book. The actual suggestion that it happened came from my master's thesis committee. They correctly saw Sarene as someone who had an unrealistic image of herself. She isn't unmarriageable or unwantable as she thinks she is. Even back in Teode, she wasn't regarded quite as harshly as she assumes. However, she's very hard on herself. Someone needed to sit her down and tell her, at the same time acknowledging to the reader that she isn't as bad as she seems to think. Because it's true, all we have is her word for all of the stuff. So having someone else pop in with a different opinion, like someone who has gotten to know her a bit, to be like, okay, look, you are too hard on yourself, kind of recontextualizes some of the internal monologue she's had where she's like, oh, I suck and nobody ever liked me.
It also just gave me sort of a parallel to Raoden in the last chapter. He's just like, oh man, I'm like dying. I'm like gonna fall to I'm gonna lose my mind, become a Hoed. And Galadon's like, yeah, man, you're not gonna become a Hoed anytime soon. That's never gonna happen. It's like kind of interesting. Like they're like both these chapters, they're both being told you're better than you think you are.
That's true. I didn't realize the symmetry there. He also mentions in the annotations, as for the ending lines, yes, I did it again. The same little cliffhanger extension from before. I figured it was
I
fitting.
knew it.
Since this structure threw Hrathen into the city, why not use the Triad system to do the same thing with him coming out? So yeah, see? He's messing with you on purpose.
Ah.
I love Royal's line where he's like, yeah, I mean, it's a shame Ahan's already married, huh? And she's like, dude, I have had enough emotional shocks for 1 week. I would kindly thank you not to make me sick to my stomach as well. And then there's a commotion, and Royal's like, what's going on? They're in his carriage, by the way. We didn't mention that. And so they look outside, and they're like, it's Hrathen. He's left Elantris. He's been healed. And that's the end of the chapter.
Dun, dun, dun.
Indeed.
Not
Not that it's really that mysterious or surprising for us, who at least had made some decent guesses about what was going on here.
But these are people who for 10 years have just like, people go into Elantris and they don't come out again, and now someone has. It's like, what the fuck?
Yep, that would be shocking.
Yeah.
Not only did he come out healed.
Yeah, that's the big thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so predicaments. What do we think is going to happen? And it'll, once again, for the audience, this is the last one we're recording for several weeks, so it'll be a while for us before we find out if where these predicaments go. But what do you guys think is going to happen next?
Okay, so long term, Royal's going to die at some point. Because I do think that Raoden and Sarene will wind up together in some way towards the end. I think that is where this story is dovetailing, and think Royal, like, if they find out Raoden's alive, I think Royal would be more than happy for Sarene to do that. So therefore, I think Brand's going to go with the more heartbreaking option and have Royal die, so they can say, well, marriage contracts are annulled. You're free to get back with Raoden. So, and also, I feel like to show the stakes, we're going to have some of the characters that we know and have been getting attached to start to go. We already lost Sauron last time. So, I think Royal is probably going to be one of the ones we lose. And so that'll be sad. I don't know where. I'm kind of just like, I don't want to make predictions about where Hrathen's going to go from here. I just want to watch it play out and see what the hell Dilaf does, because that's going to be something crucial. And I got another one, which is like, this is the dumb prediction, but I would love to see it pay off. Queen Eshin is going to have to do a widow's trial at some point. And I think that is going to be tied intrinsically to the climax in some way. Everyone's going to be like, Eshin's doing her thing. No one actually cares. And then somehow, don't know how, it is going to be crucial to how the book ends.
She would have to do a widow's trial, huh? Because she's now a widow. Yep, sure enough.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So what do you think her widow trial would be? Do you have any guesses?
I don't know. I feel like, because, she's always looking at very... like, we regard them as superficial things, but she's always trying to make everything bright and happy. And now she's got Iadon's income at her disposal, we assume. So maybe she could just blow all her money making Kay as beautiful and vibrant as possible, and like giving back to the lower class people as much as possible. And like all of a sudden, oh my god, like the merchant class is suddenly being overthrown because like their servants have more money than them all of a sudden.
No yellow though. None of that.
No, absolutely none. Like, yeah, she'll try and pass a law that outlaws yellow or something.
Yeah, yellow and gaudy orange.
No, she was on board with orange, wasn't she? That's why everyone else was just like, orange sucks.
I don't think we've heard her opinion on orange. So she might be for it, might be against it. We might have to wait and see.
Thing is, we probably have heard her opinion on it, but we just tuned it out.
Maybe, yeah.
That's what everyone does to her.
Out. Yep.
Oh, sorry, no, there was like one other thing. It's like Royal's died. He could wind up being like the secret villain of the piece. He's been sort of working behind the scenes to get his hands on the throne the whole time, and now he's got there. So in that case, like, him dying could be a good thing for Sarene. But like, I don't know. It could go either way. I feel like if he does turn out to be, that's going to be pretty shocking. But that's a coin toss, that one.
And it's kind of like how in Mistborn we were talking about maybe Kelsier was going to end up a bad guy somehow. It'd be like the same thing, because Royal is probably one of the guys that we like best, just like Kelsier in that first book. So that would be shocking.
Would make the reveal even more surprising. But I mean, it'd be surprising everything, but it wouldn't necessarily be, it wouldn't be well, this doesn't make any sense. I could totally see it making sense.
No, yeah, you're right.
So we've got some different things than last week. So I'm going to jump on board with Jamie and Dax, since we know Hrathen's been quote unquote healed, and say that the potion just like makes you appear as an Elantrian. I don't know if there's a certain time frame on the potion, and it wears off, or if you have to take like a counter thing, or if maybe just wine does it, or moldy bread or something, since that's what he consumed. But yeah, Hrathen's going to come back. He's going to, because of what he's done, he's going to be the undisputed leader of his Derethi sect. It's like, look, Jadeth has cured me of being an Elantrian, but at the same time, I think he's going to use this to undercut Dilaf by saying, like, I've walked among the Elantrians, and they're not as evil as we have first thought. Jadeth brought me out of, like, Jadeth allowed me to be taken by the Shead so that I could see, like, that there are still his people as well, and so we need to arm against anyone who would basically cloister these Elantrians off into their city. Maybe that is how he gets the people to go against Shu-Korath. It's like, because the Shu-Korath people are the ones that put him into the city. So that's a possibility. But I think all of this is going to make Dilaf pretty mad and probably suspicious. I don't see Dilaf backing down and saying, oh, the Gjorn obviously has been blessed by Jadeth. I think he's going to see through this
Oh.
Whether maybe he knows about a potion that could do this kind of thing, but I think Dilaf's gonna see through it. And then for Sarene, I think she's gonna go through with the wedding, but I think something's gonna go wrong before they get married. I don't think she's actually going to end up getting married to him. I think I think either he'll die first or something's going to go wrong that kind of foils their plans because I just don't see, especially now that Hrathen's out, because if he's still like banking on Telri, there's no way Hrathen's going to let Royal and Sarene take the throne.
That's true.
That would really screw up.
Kill Royal or something?
Maybe he'll try to kill Royal. Maybe he's still got those other two potions. He could use. Don't bark. He could use like a potion on one of them and then make them appear as an Elantrian. That'd be pretty cool. If he did that, then that would like freak everybody out. So.
Right.
And then, secondary on that, he could then, once they like, if it is just like a time thing, once they become healed, he's like, I prayed to Jadith to heal this person, and oh great, hold on one second. So what was I talking about? Oh yeah, he could use a potion on one of them, and then claim that he cured like Jadith. He prayed to Jadith to cure them, and then they did. But by that time, Telri will have already taken the throne, so it's gonna be cool.
Yeah. Interesting.
And I don't know what's going on with Raoden, man. If the door is really doing this to him because he's trying to use the magic, but it keeps flowing the wrong way through him, and it's making him in pain, like he's only going to keep doing that. So I can't see, unless he figures out how to fix this. It seems like bad news bears.
Yeah, he's not gonna stop. So yeah, it's not good.
Okay, I don't have a huge amount today, but I also was thinking about Eshen once Iadon had died, because, well, we don't know what his will looks like, but with Raoden out of the way, then you would think Eshen would probably get whatever was left over. Because, Serene's, daughter by contract, but he doesn't like Sarene. I don't think he would leave things to her. So
No, probably not.
Got me thinking that maybe it wasn't, like, if we think Raoden didn't become an Elantrian organically, if it was forced upon him, maybe Eshen's behind it. Maybe she's smarter than what we think. Now she's got Raoden out of the way, and now Iadon's gone. Whereas, I mean, obviously that he hung himself. They assume Eondel got the rope for them, but maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was Eshen. It's all happened off page, so maybe she's like, you know what?
King Iadon didn't kill himself.
Well, maybe he did it, but like he's pretty broken and a pretty nut. I guess the other thing is, if he's partaking in the just scary mystery stuff, our potion master friend was also kind of linked in with there.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be sort of a logical way to get this Elantrian poison potion thing. But I would love to see Eshen actually be smarter than what we gave her credit for, and turns out she's doing a lot of this stuff behind the scenes, and Iadon's sort of a figurehead more than anything. And it would be a possibility that no one was expecting, and she could be really loaded. I don't know how they'd feel about a woman running the country as queen, but maybe that would work. The baby's smiling at me. She's finding it hilarious. So yeah, that's what I was sort of thinking there. Also could be, Hrathen needed the potion to do something extra, and could be why there were two potions to begin with, not one potion, because Eshen doesn't want Raoden to come back from it. You just want to turn him into an Elantrian and be done with it. So I liked that thought. What was I thinking? Oh my god, his name. Hrathen's underling.
Dilaf.
Dilaf, yes, thank you. Dilaf probably knows about the potion, because I very much doubt he would have waited for Hrathen to come back before raiding his quarters.
Oh, no, no.
I think Hrathen will get back and find that Dilaf's moved in. I believe Dilaf was wearing all red as well.
Ooh, was he? I didn't even notice. Hold on, we got to go back and look for Dilaf.
I could be making it up, but that's what I thought.
You keep going. I'll look it up and see if you were correct.
So he's definitely putting himself up to be in Hrathen's place. I mean, regardless of he's wearing red or not, he would be. So things could get a bit scary there. He's still got all his artests, and I think he's definitely been making moves to head up the church there too. Whether he knows about Telri, whether Telri knows about him as well, I don't know if anyone expects that plan to go ahead now that Hrathen's gone, but I definitely think there'll be some plans in the works that Hrathen will stumble back into when he gets back. He will definitely be one of our main villains, I think.
He sure was dressed completely in red, you're right.
Which I don't know that he was before, but I think he's definitely going to stand in and was like, well, the Gion's gone that I serve. That's an opening. I don't know if you can appeal to someone to be a Gion or whatever happens. I don't know how you get made into that position there, but, would he actually report it? Would he tell anybody what happened to Raoden? I don't know, but he would definitely be standing in, and I'm sure there have been all sorts of sermons and meetings and things that have taken place in his absence that he will start to learn about as he comes back fairly quickly.
Yeah, you'd have to assume. Like, I feel like Dilloff starts moving fast, right, after Hrathen is gone to put himself in the middle of things.
I mean, it's what he was, clearly.
He's going to parties and stuff that Hrathen used to go to, so yeah. Also, I have to say, Dak's idea about Royal being, like, the secret bad guy was like, whoa, that would be, like, crazy, right? Your idea about Eshin being, like, the secret mastermind bad guy, that's, like, whole level beyond. Right. That's amazing.
I was like, screw Royal. Screw Royal. I want Eshin to be the bad guy. That would be fantastic.
Yes. Oh, my gosh.
We shall see. Secret bad guys for the win.
And so begins the war on yellow.
Everyone is secretly evil in this entire book. It's only, like, Raoden and Sarene and Hrathen who are straightforward in what they're doing. Everyone else is secretly evil.
It's like the end of the book is them just looking at everyone else, just going, "This is fucked up. Do you guys just want to get on a boat and go somewhere? Yeah, let's go find those Rose Barbarians. Let's go.
Let's go join Crush Throat's crew."
Yeah.
At least we'll eat well.
You mean Kane's family?
Yeah.
Yeah, Serene's already in that crew, right?
Yeah. Kane's just like, ahoy, it's time to become Crush Throat once again.
I'll get the Regenschweid soup. Okay, so no new emails today, no new reviews, so we're don't need to do anything on that front. As we mentioned, I want to let everyone know again, we will be skipping 1 week next week. Well, next week for you guys, and then we should be back the week after that with the next chapters, which will be 6 chapters again. So 36 through 41. Chapters 36 through 41. For next time. Very exciting. We have now gotten to, what point are we at now? 68% of the way through the book. So we're 2/3 of the way at this point.
Ooh.
And things have definitely started happening these last couple episodes. So maybe they will continue happening.
If they want to send us an email, where do they send it?
If you would like to send us an email, the email address is thesanderlanche@gmail.com. That's the Sanderlanche, one word with an E at the end. You can also find us on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and places such as that. Music by Miracle of Sound. Again, just get that in there. I'm not going to forget that one. Thanks, everybody, for listening, and wuzzing to the time of next. Colo.
My name's get up, get out.